The environment is changing here and there, challenges across the country resulting from different environmental issues. We've seen homes running out of food, land becoming closely bare and not yielding much fruits for the farmers. This drives us to a very interesting conversation on on some of the roles that our local leaders can really bring on board to ensure that every citizen cooperates with conserving our dear environment. Today at Faraja Digital TV, I bring to you one of the most amazing leader in the country. He's an RDC of Amuria, has worked in Pakwach and has worked in different parts of the country. An environmental specialist, academia in that regard, and a specialist in line to governance. This is none other than Mr. Eseru Paul, the RDC of Amuria. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother Ivan. And I want to say it's been a long time that we are reconnecting, I think after more than 4 years.
Sure.
We worked very well by that time, and I'm happy that at least we are here. To our viewers out there, like I stated, my name is Paul Eseru. I work as the RDC of Amuria in the eastern part of Uganda, that is in Teso specifically. But also, like you said before that, I also worked in Soroti District. I also worked in Pakwach, that's in West Nile. I also worked in Lango, I think among other areas. Yeah, so my academic background, my first degree was in agriculture and environment before I went and did also a Masters of Science in Leadership and Governance. So I am happy to be here on this very, very interesting television, sharing our views, and I am very much happy that we are here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Maybe, actually, it's a pleasure having you here, and for time without numbers, we'll be engaging on different issues, especially looking at the aspect of your specialization.
Yeah,
of course, issues of governance entail along whatsoever that we have. Every developmental initiative that we have in the country entails along governance, and it's our pleasure having you. Now, let's dive into a conversation. Of late, I've seen you engaging so much in ensuring that environment is conserved, from both engagement with local leaders, traditional leaders, especially when there was a campaign against charcoal burning. What exactly inspired you into taking such deliberate effort in a world full of many leaders that are reluctant and just viewing these things happening?
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to say that I am one person who is very passionate about the surrounding in which we live, because that is where we all derive our nourishment, that's where we derive our survival, that's where we derive our establishment. And generally, without nature, without the environment, we can barely survive, we can't live. Because look at, for example, the oxygen which we inhale, we use it for breathing and the likes. It comes from the trees. So imagine if we didn't have oxygen. You look at like our people who are in hospitals, they have to survive on that costly. If you hear somebody is on ICU, that is intensive care unit, is surviving on artificial oxygen.
Sure.
So who are we not to take advantage of the natural oxygen which our Almighty God has given us? So that's the reason why we should be very grateful and we should be very jealous, especially in safeguarding the environment. For me, that's the background where I'm coming from. I am very passionate about the trees. I am very passionate about the water, which we because without water, they say water is life. You know it.
Sure.
I'm very passionate about the soil. The soil, it's a primary factor of production. So all those constitute our environment. And those days when we're learning, especially in the lower primaries, they used to tell us that environment is the surrounding in which we live. So
Sure.
when you look at the soil, when you look at the water, when you look at the vegetation and the trees, all those give us life. They give us survival. They give us nourishment. So it is upon that, it gives me that motivation to ensure that whichever kind of environment we live in, we must ensure that we protect it, we conserve it, and above all, we protect it jealously. Protect, conserve, but also preserve it. So for me, that is my background, where I'm coming from. I've visited so many people in the intensive care units. You see people how they are struggling. You remember at that time of COVID time.
Yes.
People were surviving on those cylinders. So, and at a cost. But now, when you are healthy, when your environment is healthy, you can be very sure that you can live a normal life. So for me, that's where I'm coming from.
That's a wonderful one. Protect,
preserve and conserve. That is the bottom line.
So let's come back to the essence of protection. We've seen many times the citizens who might, I don't know if it will be fair to me to say, they are not passionate about conserving this environment, are taking actions against our dear environment. What do you think would have been the cause that is raising the statistic up to 40%? We've seen the rate at which the soil is being left bare has clocked to 40%. This is resulting from different human activities like the high rate of deforestation. And what do you think could have been some of the major factors driving people to these actions that threatens our environment?
Yeah, thank you so much. To start with, when we are talking about the soil, soil is generally land is a primary factor of production. That's where human beings, they derive their livelihoods from. You find that we as human beings, we are using the land, one, for construction. That's where we build our houses. We are also using land for cultivation to grow the crops which we survive on. We also use the same land to plant trees. We use the same land to build factories, to construct a number of projects. It's the land where we do that. Unfortunately, the challenge with land is that for it, the size does not increase.
Sure.
But the human population, every time and again, increases. Like, if you recall, in 1986, in Uganda here, we had an estimated population of about 14 million people. But to date, by 2025, we had an estimated population of close to 46 million people. So, but the size of Ugandan land has never increased. So that tells you that the increasing population pressure is one of the contributing factors towards mass environmental degradation. You have talked clearly in terms of the land. So there's a lot of pressure, one, to clear land for commercial agriculture. If you went to places like in the greater north, that's where at least we have vast land compared to other parts of this country. For example, if you went to western axis of this country, you will not find vast lands. You will find very small fragmented lands. But in the northern part, that's where we still have some bit of vast land. So because of the need for commercial agriculture, you find that it greatly contributes to the rapid clearing of the natural vegetation. Somebody wants to cultivate, say, hundreds and hundreds of hectares of sugarcane. For example, if you visited a district called Chiriandongo, towards villages called Chikungulu, towards the water, they cleared vast lands in order to start the project of sugarcane growing. The same with Amuru in the areas of Atiak. Atiak, that's where they're establishing the sugar factory. But before the sugar factory can be introduced there, or the plantations, a lot of land has to be cleared in order to plant. The same with Masindi here, among other areas, even in Noya. So the need to establish commercial agriculture has pushed us to clearly degrade the environment. We tend to tamper with the integrity of the natural environment in order to introduce a new activity in place. So that alone in itself affects the natural vegetation, affects the natural environment in that area, and the entire environmental integrity, it gets tampered with. Because if you look at the trees, the natural trees which are going to be cleared, the process of clearing those natural trees has a multiplier effect, in the sense that there is what we call the biodiversity in that area. Talk about the birds which are living in that place. Talk about the animals, like these ones in the Homo sapiens family. The monkeys, the chimpanzees, and all those derive their livelihood from those natural habitats. But when we introduce, for example, commercial agriculture in that area, you're going to chase away all those other natural organisms, or in the entire ecosystem in that area. So it gets affected. So one is the push, the drive for commercial agriculture. Then number two is urbanization. You find that we now have the need to establish what we call satellite cities.
True.
And that is where the world is focusing on now. So you find that the people will select a certain trading center and they want to develop it into a mode of a satellite city where there is a school, a hospital. We have all the infrastructure within one process, within one area. Like you have seen in Dubai, how they have mastered like a master plan for the development of a city. So that also contributes to environmental degradation, because they will have to massively tamper with so many things, including the hills in that area. You'll find that they will be degraded, they will be destroyed, even the rocks in that area, for as long as it is mapped within the confines of that city, or with what we are calling urbanization. So that also affects the environment. The other one is is agriculture, generally agriculture, whether intensive or small scale agriculture. That one also has the impact of negatively affecting the environment. Now, another problem is the poor farming methods. Most of the people in the rural setting, they tend to use poor agronomic practices. Which ones are those agronomic practices? For example, monocropping. Somebody is growing one crop year in, year out. That is what we call monocropping. So that in itself, it tends to have a far-reaching consequence on the soil. The other one is the heavy use of fertilizers. These are the artificial chemicals.
True.
Majority of those chemicals, whether fertilizers, especially these inorganic fertilizers, they have a long residual effect on the soil. And who are the organisms who are affected in this scenario? One of them, in the soil, we have so many microorganisms which contribute to soil fertility. And when you use chemicals like herbicides massively, when you use them in the soil, or these fertilizers, for example, NPK, they tend to stay in the soil, and ultimately they tend to kill the microorganisms which tend to contribute to soil fertility. Also, when those chemicals find themselves in the water body, for example, in a nearby stream, lake, river, they tend to kill especially the aquatic life. We have organisms in the water, for example, the phytoplanktons, which have similar physiological characteristics like any other plant in the surface of the soil. So if that chemical affects the phytoplanktons, which fish feed on, ultimately we also tend to find that we shall kill the fish and all other aquatic life in the water body. So the excessive use of chemicals, urbanization, commercial agriculture, poor agronomic practices, including this kind of nomadic pastoralism, where you find people concentrating grazing animals in a specific area. If that place gets degraded, then they move to another place. That's also a very poor method of agriculture. We also have others. For example, I'm happy that through so many interventions now, government is bringing in the element of the climate smart agriculture, whereby it looks at even the component of minimum tillage. You see, in the rural setting, people use hand hose for cultivation. So every time and then, the person digs only a specific depth of the soil. In the end, there is what we call a hard pan, which gets created in the process. And therefore, for you to break that hard pan, you will need now other higher implements. For example, either ox plow or a tractor, in order to break into the hard pan. So the use of rudimentary tools as for farming practices also has that effect of affecting the soil, affecting the environment generally. Thank you.
Yeah, you've really highlighted much more to actually a deeper depth of some of the practices that humans have gotten themselves involved into. Now, let me dive a little into the essence of urbanization.
Yes.
That means people looking at smaller town and trying to create a model city out of it, where they are able to have all those the essential services within a confined place.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, beside only destroying the plant covers to leave land bare for them, we have witnessed cases of unmanaged waste. For example, right now as I speak, there is 52% increase of unmanaged waste in urban places. Do you think our government has a framework that can be used to ensure that these 52% of waste that are not being managed are actually put into certain usage? Or is the country typically looking into the direction of having some of these challenges addressed?
Yeah, thank you. I have, even you particularly, you have been privileged to move around the globe. I have also moved around the globe. I have visited some of the cities in this country. It is only, I think, us here who are just experiencing a slight challenge of, say, waste management, especially in our city here in Kampala. It's basically here. In 2014, I happened to move to Rwanda here.
Yeah.
A very small, in Kigali, very small city. But you can see the level of hygiene, the level of cleanliness they have. You go to Nairobi here, very near here, I can assure you, you will see a very clean city. I've been to Moscow. Before, I've been to Nizhny Novgorod. Those are cities in Russia. Of course, I've been to Dubai, I've been to Istanbul, I've been to Ankara. Those are some of the cities they may not be so much in, like, they fall in the first class countries. But what I can tell the viewers out there is that we have just a challenge of mindset in our country here. And also poor leadership. This is what I can say. But we have quite a number of policy frameworks which help us to do away with especially this waste disposal. We have the NEMA Act, this National Environment Management Authority. When you read especially Article 181 of the NEMA Act, it gives you all what needs to be done in order to safeguard a city, in order to safeguard an environment, ranging from the caveras, which we deliberately drop in in our sewage system and the likes. And let me tell you, the poor waste disposal practices, they also contribute to around 50 to 70% of the environmental degradation. I can give you an example of these caveras. A cavera, these polythene bags here, they in chemical terms, they are made of what we call organic compounds. Sure. And some of those organic compounds, they are non-biodegradable. The microorganisms, the ones I talked about, the ones in the soil, they are unable to attack them. They cannot even, they try to attack them, they are even poisonous to them. So they tend to avoid them. So such a cavera, when it overstays in this, it affects what we call the aeration in the soil. It affects aeration. It also affects the flow and the percolation of water in the soil. And also the germination. It affects the germination of any kind of seed. So that's only on the side of the soil. But in the urban setting, you see, especially when cavera is dropped, especially in the sewage line or in the sewage system, they tend to block the movement, the path or the drainage system. They block, and ultimately that in itself, it tends to create a certain kind of stench. Then pollution comes in, among other attendant negative effects. So we have good policy frameworks which can help to safeguard our cities. The problem, which I can say, is probably implementation.
Sure.
I want to applaud the current ED of NEMA, Dr. Yaz Akankwatsa.
Yes.
He's trying to introduce some of the creative ways through which we can probably, help our city, but also help the environment. Mm-hmm. You remember, I think a year or two ago, when he said every vehicle, it should have a dustbin.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember?
Yes.
To us, we took it like it's a joke, but that helps us to fight the rampant dropping of polythene, these mineral water bottles.
True.
Anyhow, because the city is using a lot of money in order to manage only that kind of caveras and littering of the environment. Anyhow, when he introduced that thing, I knew that one was going to cure the rampant dropping of those polythenes and other plastics everywhere. Because you'd reach a certain specific place where you'll get the dustbin, you drop it there, then now the city authorities, or call it town council, whatever, will now come and pick it from that place and take it to the designated places. So we have systems in place, but the challenge has been implementation. The other issue is, which I've thanked him, is now how he's struggling to reclaim, especially
the wetlands,
the encroached wetlands in this city. It's coming at a very expensive cost. Sure. I was seeing mixed reactions, especially amongst even the elites in this country, that why would we go on reclaiming those encroached areas? I said, I think we have a big problem. One is mindset, but of course also the implementation bit. We need a leader who will take a decision, whether it's a good or a bad decision. But for as long as it has a bearing on the environment, let's first take a decision. The rest now we shall manage it as it comes. Especially, you see now people are crying, where are we going? Especially the people, I saw the ones in Lubiji, even here near Busavala here. I saw houses erected in the water on top of that wetland. So people are asking now leaders of government that where are we going? But if I were the one being asked, for example, if you asked me in Amuria that where are we going, I will also ask you, where were you coming from before you came and settled on that place which you even knew it's a wetland? You understand? So
yeah, I get
those are the things. So when it comes to urbanization, we have the physical development plan for every city, for every town council, every district. That one details what falls where.
Sure.
So if we have a challenge, especially with the implementation of the physical development plan. You'll find that we shall end up raising, for example, structures in places where you know that the water passes there.
Sure.
And it becomes a little very expensive, like you have seen in Kampala here, places like in Bwaise. People tampered, like you remember what I talked about, the integrity, the natural integrity, the original state of the environment.
Where we came from.
Where we came from.
Yeah.
You see now, for example, with the water will always pass where it passed. Yes. God designed this country in a way that you will have valleys, you will have hills. Last year, when I traveled to Zanzibar, when you are up there, you see that the town of Zanzibar is down, and the water is up there.
True.
I kept wondering before we landed that why can't the water come and cover up the city? Because you will see that the city is up, and I mean the city is down and the water is up there. Yeah. But that's how God designed that water will always pass where it passes. The challenge comes in when we try to tamper with that natural path of water. Definitely now there, at some point in time, water will remember that this is where we used to pass. And it will come with all the force, and it will ensure that it will reclaim its original path. And those are the challenges which we are seeing, especially in Kampala here, and also other these upcoming urban settings. I also saw it in Lira when I was working in Lira. People attempted to reclaim a wetland. But water at some point in time, it got annoyed. It came and swept everything down. All the buildings collapsed in that place. So I was talking about the physical development plan, that we must ensure that the people, the technical staff who are charged with the responsibility of the implementation, they should not be compromised in one way or the other. That's another challenge which we have as a country. People tend to get compromised. And ultimately, we end up compromising the environment. And with the time, the environment will charge, and it will have negative consequences on us, the people who are doing injustice to it.
Maybe we hope Kasanja no sleep.
I am very happy that of all the years which we have been in power, this is a very unique Kisanja. This is a very unique term that I want to thank our beloved president. This time, we have a very patient leader in this whole world. The president we have in Uganda, the names of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, is one of the patient leaders you can talk about in this country.
Sure.
He's not in the other category. In leadership, we have different kinds of leaders.
Sure.
We have dictatorial leaders. We have charismatic leaders, we have servant leaders, we have transformational leaders, we also have transactional leaders. But for him, is that category of transformation, servant, charismatic, is not in dictatorial leadership.
True.
But I have liked the blend now, which he has put in place. For him as he grows, like recently I was telling some people, that our president now combines biology and ideology. So the stand with which he has stood and he has started this current term, 2026-2031, is very good for everybody in this country.
Sure.
Many times we have become very complacent. Sure. We have taken things for granted, everything, even poverty. Even poverty, we have taken it, we have normalized it. That's why you heard him say that there are people who are now democratically poor. They have decided to live in that kind of enclave. And they look at it as normal. He says, no, that is not a normal thing. Sure. So we therefore need to change now. We need to change from where we were. And we need to tow now a different and a little bit a tough road. And to me, that is why I really thank him so much. Why am I thanking him? Why? Because it's now going to awaken every leader, every sleeping giant in this country who has been taking things normally. You see somebody is constructing on a wetland, but I think that is government. We say, that's the work of government.
True.
That is NEMA. But, and yet, we are all charged with that responsibility to protect the environment. You remember when we're in West Nile, we have that Nile, you see, that Albert Nile, the Albert Nile.
Yeah.
That one goes up to the Mediterranean Sea via Egypt and joins up to the Med Sea.
Yes.
Now, any practice, especially human practice, which we do at any point within that Nile, it affects the people at the end use. For example, Egypt, I think 80 to 90% of their livelihoods is derived from that water there.
Nile, sure.
From that Nile.
From irrigation.
From irrigation, water for production, water for use in factories.
True.
Everything, they derive from that. True. So, assuming we are doing inhumane activities which affect the environment and which affect that water, you'll find that the people, the other side, will definitely have a very serious challenge. So we as citizens, we as Ugandans, we have now to wake up and ensure that we are not leaving everything to government. We must ensure that if it is matters of environment, we should all be concerned. Why is this person digging in the wetland? Why? For example, you see that this a river. Why are you digging there and people are just taking it normally?
Sure.
You see that somebody is dropping caveras everywhere and we just think that that's the work of town council. They're the ones who are going to clean. You see that somebody is spraying chemicals everywhere in the environment and we are not bothered. So this is the time whereby we must wake up and we say no to especially those activities, human activities, which have a far-reaching negative consequences on the environment. Whether you don't have any position in leadership in the village, we must wake up. Whether you're a leader, in fact, if you are even a leader, if you are a leader, let me now make it very, very, if you're a leader out there, we must now get out of our comfort zones. We must do all what it takes to ensure that issues to do environment are our topmost priority, because history will judge us harshly if we do not protect this environment in which we live in.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Actually, we have also seen the rate at which the semi-arid areas is continuously expanding. Of course, that could have been part of history judging leaders who never took warning seriously. One of my friends once told me that with environment, if you cannot feel it, you will definitely smell it, because it is something that rotates within our own docket. Allow me drive you again a little bit backward when you reminded us of the encroachment that are being done in wetland areas. In 2020, we've seen floodings in rivers across the country. Of course, in the district of Pakwach, we were also affected.
Yes.
Over 5 sub-county affected. Actually, the worst sub-county was Pakwach Town Council, where the entire parish, the area within Owere, was taken up by water.
True.
So, I honestly, as a person, I think it is on the right course that the country reawaken and takes action against encroachment in wetland. Now, as we've always seen a trend where when even people in leadership begins to condemn actions of NEMA, and often we've seen it with the charcoal burning. When the campaign began, we've seen a lot of people that were benefiting from it condemning the actors, actually the implementers of the law. And eventually you get to realize that the effort being put towards stopping SHARS eventually begins to slow down and it touches the end point. Do you also think that the implementations of evicting people that have encroached in the wetland areas, will it not suffer the same fate as that of the charcoal that slowly is already shrinking?
Yeah. I want to acknowledge that we have the challenges of implementation generally as a country.
Sure.
Somebody at some point was making a joke that our neighbors, our neighboring countries, they copy our laws and they go and implement them in their country. For us, we have people with very good brains, well-polished brains. They're able to come up with the good policies, good laws, but when it comes to implementation, it becomes a big challenge. That's why other people, they tend to come and benchmark on how we make our laws, then they go and implement them. So, but I allow me comment on that in particular. This country where we are, Uganda, is one of the amazing countries we have in Uganda, General Africa. You see, they say Uganda is the pearl of Africa. South Africa, they say it's the rainbow of Africa. There is a term which is given to Kenya here. They call it Hujamburi something. I don't recall very well. We have unique, African countries are very unique.
Sure.
In nature. So why we are called the pearl, it's because of the unique environment we have in the entire universe here. So this country needs patriots. This country needs people who are ideologically upright, people who are very passionate about the country, about the environment, about the people itself. To me, once we have, even if it's like 10% of those people in the country, you can be in position to be sure that we can rescue this environment.
True.
There are so many inhuman activities being subjected to the environment. I talked about the soil alone first.
Sure.
Then we talked about in an urban setting the poor waste disposal activities.
True.
Then I think I talked briefly about the water. By the way, also poor fishing methods also affects the ecosystem in the what? In the lakes and the rivers. And that's why we had challenges, especially when we were in West Nile, with the Fisheries Protection Unit, whereby they are saying, let's use the technical expertise, the technical guidance from the people who are saying that let's use the proper fishing methods, which allow us to only extract the fish which is ready, other than going to extract each and everything, like they commonly call it kokota. Pick everything, whether living or non-living, from the water. So we need patriots to ensure that even in the water, we protect the aquatic life there. So, but then now, when you come to generally the entire environment, the things I want to talk about, we still have people who are doing indiscriminate banning.
Sure.
You find this is a vast area, but instead of doing controlled banning, people do indiscriminate banning. Set fire here, and it erases thousands and thousands of vegetation, which is very detrimental to the environment. In so many ways, you're killing the microorganisms in the soil, you are killing the subterranean organisms like the termites, and all these slow-moving organisms. You are killing insects, you're killing birds, you're killing reptiles, amphibians, and all other. You're chasing away these others, other organisms which are able to, the ones which derive their terrestrial life, for example, those living on trees and the likes.
True.
The burning, but there is also pollution. Pollution is also another very difficult negative impact which we are experiencing, both in urbanization, but also in the rural setting now. Now, then we have indiscriminate cutting down of trees. Now that is the one which all of us should not tolerate. The indiscriminate cutting down of trees.
True.
Like you rightly observed, you see now, like those other places, the cause for desertification is the deforestation.
True.
We went ahead and ravaged everything, cut down, and now what happens? The desert now comes in because the soil will become dry. The trees which help in rain formation are no longer there. And that is suffering. Now, recently, especially in Uganda, we have our trees in particular. They have so many economic and monetary values.
Sure.
Leave alone leave alone the values we derive from the trees alone. Trees, for example, they provide us with oil.
True.
Like in the eastern and northern parts of this country, we have a tree called shea nut.
Yes.
The economic value of that tree is very high. And that's why even NEMA had to gazette, the Forest Act had to gazette such a tree as a protected tree species.
True.
Why? Because of its economic value. It gives us oil, so over shea nut oil, which has so many food values, both food and also economic value.
Sure.
The shea nut, yes. So when you read the Forest Act, it stipulates the type of trees which are gazetted as protected species. Yeah. We also have trees which have become extinct.
Sure.
So to safeguard such kinds of shea nut, that's why the Forestry Act had to come in to ensure that we stop the cutting down of those trees. Now, like I told you, the problem was implementation. The law is there, but there is no patriotic Ugandan who will stand up and say, let's follow the law. So recently, that's why the president had to come up with what we call executive orders.
Yeah.
An executive order is more or less like a law.
Sure.
The first one, I think it was in 2023. I remember I was still in West Nile. That executive order number 3 of 2023 was meant to address the challenge of the rampant cutting down of trees, especially in northern Uganda, those protected tree species. And that order was supposed to be implemented in express terms. You don't need to waste time. You have to ensure that the concerned people and that implementation bit were thrown to the office of the RDC and the District Security Committee in general. That get somebody who is cutting down that tree, get somebody who is burning charcoal, because charcoal became one of the biggest driving factor towards the cutting down of those protected tree species. So get somebody in a pound, take to court, auction the charcoal. It was as express as that. And I remember in Pakwach, we impounded trucks and trucks of vehicles. We took over 15 people to court, and even a lot of charcoal was auctioned. Other charcoal we had to give to schools, especially these boarding schools. So that action alone, to a certain extent, it suppressed, and also it gave a warning to the would-be people who would wish to continue cutting down those trees. So we had to stamp our feet on ground. I worked with the entire security team. I told them we must execute this to the dot, and we did that. When I came to Soroti, we tried it. Unfortunately, I can tell you that it was somehow politicized when I was in Soroti. At least now in Amuria, we do not have that element of political interference in the implementation of the executive order. We are now doing it at least to the latter. So the implementation is one key area which affects especially the goodwill of the law, the goodwill of the policy, which would actually protect, for example, the gazetted tree species. In Amuria, right now, I have had series of security meetings specifically deliberating on how best we can reclaim our wetlands and how best we are going to specifically focus our attention on 3 tree species. One of them is the shea nut, shea nut. The other one is the tamarind. We also have tamarind in greater parts of Teso and northern Uganda. And also mangoes. Those tree species have both economic and also medicinal values attached to them. There is a lot of extraction of certain chemicals and whatever from those tree species. So I have had a lot of series of engagements now, and at the moment, because when you look, I looked at all the available frameworks in place. One of them is the NEMA Act. We have the Water Act to help me with the wetlands. We have the Forestry Act. We have the Wildlife Act. We also have the Local Government Act. All those have ingredients which are tailored towards environmental conservation, protection, and the preservation. For example, at the local level, for example, at the district level, the Local Government Act mandates all the district councils to come up with like an ordinance which can help to build on the already existing law. You look at the existing law and you say, how do we break it down now to tailor into our setting here? So those are all the legal frameworks which are there in place, which I've already looked at. And I've seen that any action which the district leadership, which the local leadership now takes, it will be protected. Why? Because we have the existing legal framework in place to ensure that we can do it. For example, in Amuria, we have people coming from very far areas. They come with these saws, these machines, which cut down trees. For example, at night, they cut down the trees, they pack those, they allow them to dry, then they burn charcoal. We are saying no. I think this is uncalled for. Why would somebody come from a foreign place and you are executing such an activity, which even the indigenous people are not doing it? Somebody comes all the way from, I don't want to mention the part of the country, he comes from wherever and decides to cultivate a wetland. Plants there rise. When you go there, you find people who are speaking a different language in that area. It's not being tribalistic, but we are saying when our people are trying to be silent on using the wetland, then another person now comes from Norway and starts utilizing it. If now, for example, we go and intercept such a person, shall we be acting within or outside the law? So those are now the questions which are now lingering in our minds. And that's one of the reasons why I have been engaging the leadership of the district, the leadership of the sub-counties, and also other lower local levels to ensure that look here, I think we are not very late. For example, government has gone an extra mile to demarcate where does the river end. When you look at the Water Act and the NEMA Act, it gives what we call a buffer zone, a safe zone through which if you are to do any activity, you should not cross that line. And that is the same thing we experienced in Pakwach, if you remember. We have utilized even the buffer zone. And the buffer zone, you see with science does not lie.
True.
If 200 meters from where the water starts is gazetted or considered as a buffer zone, then stubbornly you come and decide to settle within that zone. Water will react. It will react, and it will react badly.
I think that could have been the reason for which when the waters in the Nile started rising,
yes,
houses closer were collapsing.
Sinking down.
They were sinking down and collapsing.
Exactly. Because you see in a buffer zone, it's not that water is not there. That a buffer zone is like a reserved place for water, that in the event that its level rises, it will come and reclaim up to that place where it used to stop or where it used to end whenever the highest current now occurs. So when scientists tell us that you live 200 meters from the water, please, if you are reasonable enough, you even add more 200 meters. You even add more, so that you are now completely at least a little free. You have factored in the worst case scenario. That they have guided us that we leave 200. Let me add more 200. And the beauty with that, especially for wetlands, is that all this area here, it is not that government is the one which is going to utilize that area. It's not. It remains part of their land. And that is the conversation we have always had, especially with the people in the rural setting. When we are doing awareness, we emphasize to them that the safe zone, the buffer zone, which the technical people are telling us to observe, it is not that government wants to use it. They are telling you that water at some point in time, at some time T, it will come up to here. And when it finds you there, you're going to experience a problem. So you leave that place. Now, if you're even wise enough, you add more meters so that you know that I am at a safer area. That buffer zone is also known as a safer zone.
Safer zone, yeah.
So the challenge we have had with people is explaining to them that that place does not, government is not coming to take it away from you. It is still part of your land, but we are only protecting it in a trust. We are holding it in trust. It is yours, but we are saying, let's hold it in trust. Like, holding it in trust.
Yeah.
We are protecting it for you. Yes, we are protecting it for you. Like you see, when we surrendered all our rights to the state, if I slap you now, the law says you should not retaliate, but rather you now go to the state institution to lodge your complaint that, look here, this man has slapped me in the presence of that gentleman. Then now the law will now have to catch up with me. So it's the same with this, that let's protect it on your behalf. It remains yours. There are also permissible activities which the technical people are always guiding our people, that in the event that if your land goes up the water body, if you are not in a position, for example, to maybe plant other tree species. We have acceptable trees which you can plant along the buffer zone. You can. There are activities which are permissible within the technical expertise that you can do. You can do fishing. You can dig fish ponds. And then you can do the fishing practice in that area, instead of relying directly on maybe fishing directly on the lake or on the water body. There are people who are doing grazing activities. So if, for example, one person has gone and he has plowed the whole area, I give an example again, like in Eseru now, we have the restocking program ongoing. Government is now giving people in Teso, Lango, and Acholi, 5 cows per household. 5. That's not a small number.
Sure.
Yes. If every household has 5 animals,
true,
given the limited land we now have, fragmented by the way, where are we going to graze those animals if one person is going to utilize? So it is one of the reasons I have started a campaign, a mass one, and I need support from everybody to ensure that we make Amuria District one of the model districts in terms of environmental conservation, protection, and preservation. I have started it, and I am praying to God to bless me to ensure that I fulfill whatever I have started in the area.
Wow. Where are you taking us? Of course, where are we coming from? This is from Eseru Paul, the RDC of Amuria, who is with us and diving us into the conversation of protection, conservation, and preservation of our dear environment. As we come to the conclusion of the conversation,
yes,
I wanted to understand. Of course, you talked about the intersection of the local leaders with the frameworks that government have already given in the policies that are in place.
Yeah.
That
and also the regulations.
And also the regulations itself. So you highlighted on the component of political interference in implementations.
Yeah.
And of course, it is not the first time that we are hearing about political interference in implementations. That's why you even reminded us that our neighboring countries do copy our laws and they implement it better in their own
I also
countries.
heard it from some discussions.
Of
Yeah.
course. I've been of late to Arusha, and people were also saying, applauding Uganda for raising up such a great policy framework, so, though not practically implemented by our implementing teams. So, do you think that having a forum that engages maybe the political leaders would do us maybe a service to the nation in line to conserving the environment? Do you think if we have a forum where all the leaders are actually educated, maybe spoken to in line to protection, conservation, and preservation of our dear environment, do you think we might have chances of limiting interference in implementations?
For me now, where I've reached, any initiative, any innovation, any idea which is generated towards the three components I talked about: preservation, protection, and conservation of environment, I wholly welcome. Let's have the idea. We shall cross the bridge when we reach there.
Of course.
So coming up with an integrated forum which brings together all actors who can be in position to safeguard our environment, I think it can be a good step in the right direction. Wow. Why am I saying that? We have always seen, I want to give an example. For example, when we have an outbreak of an epidemic in the country, our president, His Excellency, is always very quick at forming, for example, a task force, which is tasked with, just like you hear, responsibility to accomplish a certain task.
Sure.
So there has to be an element of force in it. I remember at the district level, we chair so many task forces in the district, the office of the RDC.
Of course.
Because there is an element of force. During COVID, the RDC is the chairperson of the COVID task force in the district. When we had an outbreak of foot and mouth disease, you remember, at some point in time, the RDC office is the chairperson of the task force. When we had even malaria, malaria task force, yellow fever task, all those, we chair. Why? Because there is an element of force involved. And the force we are talking about is at the level of implementation. Because you will come up with a very good policy, but now the penalty bit needs to be brought out very clearly, and that's why we need the element of force. And who are the people who are supposed to execute
the force?
The force, you need now the other arms of the state.
Okay.
So to me, what you're stating is very correct. That I think it's high time, even if you already have those other skeleton frameworks, those other skeleton bodies which you are talking about, which can be formed together. But we can boost it up, we can redefine it, we can retrain it, and also retool it in order for it to achieve the intended purpose. So I agree with you that we can have a synergized kind of body which brings in together all the different actors who ranging from the farming community, from these ones who are doing livestock, like the pastoralists, these ones, especially in the cattle corridor, they need to be brought on board. Then we bring in, we have the civil society organizations, we need them on board. We need the like you now, the young people, the youth. Yeah, the youth. We need to bring them on board. We need to bring in the technical people on board now to guide us on which practical solutions can be put in place to ensure that we safeguard the environment. So generally, a body, a framework, like what you called it like an entity which brings
like a platform.
A platform, yes. Any platform now which has an element which helps us to conserve our environment, I welcome it.
Wow.
That platform, that forum, you call it, I support it 100%. Because you see, especially with our, when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals,
yes,
there is that element of environmental protection.
Sure.
And there is it's a forum, unfortunately for it, it's at a higher level. You find that it's normally at a higher level.
At international level.
International level.
Yes.
We need to also domesticate it. We need to customize it to that. Those forums should be, for example, even at the local level, say at the district level, we integrate everyone on board. We have like now at the police, we also have what we call environmental police.
Oh.
Yeah, at the police level, but it's created, but not very functional. Not very functional. So if we blended it with a completely a newly packaged forum or platform, bring the environment police on board, the UPDF, the environment, those ones on board, then the technical people, the other stakeholders, the farming community, opinion leaders, the cultural leaders, religious leaders, all integrated in one forum. The youth leaders, you'll find that at least given a certain time frame, we can be in position to do something to intercept, especially on those other activities which somebody would be thinking of doing on the environment.
Yeah, of course. Before you give us your parting shot, you reminded me of the cultural institutions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think they play a critical role in conservation of environment?
Oh, yes, they do.
If they do, then is there a possibility that they can be merged together? Because, of course, you find culture in its essence is a bit, I don't know if you say
unique.
Unique. It's quite unique that sometimes they prohibit a culture leader from collaborating freely in the public. Do you think there's a criteria upon which we can bring them on board? Because initially, when we look at the water resource as a component of environment, you realize that before the coming of the British that came and actually brought a lot of things to order, the cultural institution was managing water resource, especially the rivers. If you're to access the river, you are supposed to go and seek permission from the cultural leaders. Even after fishing, one would come and account for the kinds of fish,
the number of fish,
the number of fish and the types you caught to the cultural institution. So I think in one way or the other, they are playing a conservative role. So is there a way we can bring in that essence of culture in conserving the environment so that maybe in one way or the other they are also incorporated?
Yeah. Thank you very much. But like I stated earlier on, that the beauty I have with the cultural institutions we now have in place, I want to say they are modern cultural institutions.
Yeah.
They are not like the other traditional, probably rigid institutions we had in the earlier days. The ones we now have, at least I've visited Toro, I've visited in Uganda, I've visited the one of Bunyoro, I've been to Buganda here, I've been to Busoga, I've been to Bugisu, then Teso, where I am part and parcel of the kingdom for Teso.
Okay.
I have not visited the one of Achole. But in all those, I can say we have a modern cultural institutions. When you look at their alignment, you find that they align themselves, they also align themselves so much with the current existing laws of this country. Whatever laws, whatever can call them maybe bylaws, they tend to align it with the ones of the country.
The constitution of the country.
Or the constitution of the country. Even as much as they're supposed to be as cultural as possible, but I've also seen them, they so much align themselves with the current or the sitting government. They are not like so much opposed or whatsoever. So whatever development plans which the country has, they also tend to align. And also government tends to work hand in hand with these cultural institutions. So I strongly believe, and I've seen it especially with our cultural institution headed by Papa Emorimor. He has a very strong vision, especially in environmental conservation. And many times he calls us, the leaders of the areas in Teso, to brainstorm on how best we can handle environment, we can handle education, we can handle health, we can handle poverty in our area. And I've been, I am the coordinator of oral RDCs of Teso. So I am very privileged to work hand in hand with him. One, in terms of mobilization, coordination, communication, but most importantly, even ideas. We generate ideas for him, and then he refines it and puts it back to you people and says, I think let's now see how we can implement them. So the cultural institution plays a very, very pivotal role, especially in the local indigenous communities. I can give you an example. In now, like in Amuria, I've come up with a policy that every time I am commissioning a project in a specific area, I have to plant about 5 trees.
Wow.
If I'm commissioning a health center, if I'm commissioning a classroom block, I have to plant a tree, name it, this is a tree for Eseru Pole RDC, this is for the LOC5, this is for the cow, this is for the environment officer, and this is for if it is a health facility, this is for the DHO. If it is a school, this is for the district environment officer. The district education officer.
Yeah.
So that is what now those are the initiatives. We are trying to do a lot of mindset unpacking. You see, with the mindset change, it is when you see, that's when your mind changes.
Sure.
But when we just talk that let's plant trees without you doing it physically, nobody will ever understand what you're talking about. So that is what I've now introduced in Amuria. Also, I have liked the Church of Uganda in Amuria and the Greater Teso. Whenever there is burial, they are planting a tree.
Wow.
So to me, such initiatives, cultural. Now we shared this with Papa Morimol, that whenever you are invited for a certain function, whether wedding, whether marriage, which kind of function, ensure that we plant trees in that function. Yes. And he has bought the idea, and now it has triggered within the cultural institution. There is what we call a development arm of the institution. They are now the ones who are championing that particularly. They are growing trees, and whenever the cultural leader has a function, they move with the trees and they are planted there.
Wow.
So I strongly believe that a combination of all actors, whether cultural institutions, religious institutions, political leaders, opinion leaders, youth leaders, all categories of leadership in an area, if they are brought together in a common pool, in a common forum, they can be in position to strengthen those ideas, and we can do a lot, especially with environmental conservation and protection. So it cuts across, whether on protecting the fish species, protecting our wetlands, protecting our water bodies. If, for example, in Bunyoro, the cultural institution says that we should stop the practice of catching immature fish, that alone, that the Omokama of Bunyoro said, who are you to go against?
Sure.
If, for example, Kabaka here, Uganda, has come up come out to, like you see how he's fighting, especially HIV. It sends a very strong message.
Sure.
If Papa Emorimoro of Teso says that, look here, our people of Teso, the government is giving us cows. Where are they going to graze? Let's get out of the wetlands. Leave the wetlands for our cows. Because in Teso, traditionally, the cow used to be the cash economy in the Teso. We could graze the animals in our swamps and they come back home. Leave the animals. Who are you to disobey what the cultural leaders said? So that forum is very important. And the inclusion of all those people with support from the civil society organization, I think we can be good to go.
Yeah, I think at this point, maybe you've exhausted the intersection of the leaders. You've even talked about the essence of what the cultural leaders, institutions are playing in giving, making sure that conversation is sustained. And of course, you've challenged a lot of civil society organizations in ensuring that they also play a pivotal role in ensuring that conservation is witnessed. What is your parting shot to the different stakeholders that entail along environment conversation?
This is Kisanja. Hakuna no sleep. Hakuna kulala.
Yes.
So I want to borrow it from that context that we have slept for long. In terms of our environment, we have slept for long, and I think this is now the right time for us to do environmental accountability. Let's all look at what have we done. We need to challenge ourselves in a manner that in the next 5 years, what have we done? One, in combating soil erosion, in ensuring that we have good agronomic practices being practiced in our communities when we are cultivating our crops. What have we done in ensuring that even as you cut a tree, even in your compound, how many have you planted? We should ensure that whenever we do those lavish functions, let's challenge ourselves that how do we remember this function, let alone only having photos flooded everywhere on social media. What have we done in respect to the environment? I recently attended one of the weddings. The wedding reception was just under trees.
Oh.
Yes, it was just under trees. That's where we had our reception.
Wow.
So it was the environment was so ambience that we're getting a lot of fresh air. There's nothing like we're using air conditioners in those hotels. It was just natural environment. So as we conclude this session, I want to first and foremost thank you so much. Thank you so much for identifying me to come and share my insights and also what we are trying at our local level. What we are doing. Much of it you'll be seeing on media, because I really feel that if somebody also sees, like I've told you, what we are demonstrating, if they see that if Amuria is doing it, I think even us we can do it.
Sure.
So I want to thank you so very much, together with your colleague, for inviting me here. I also want to thank the management of Faraja Digital Television for having very capable people like you who are very passionate, especially on contemporary issues, issues to do with governance, leadership, environment, politics, and all those, they have an intersection at a certain point in time. As I conclude, I want to thank my people, especially from Amuria, the ones I'm working with, that this time which we are working together, we have prioritized environment issues to do with environment so aggressively. I'm working hand in hand with the Office of the District Natural Resource Officer and Environment Officer. We are working hand in hand with the Office of the District Production and Agricultural Officer and all other extension staff in the district to ensure that they incorporate the environmental sustainability component in all the activities which they are doing in line with their profession. Because in the district we have the fisheries officer.
Yes.
That one handles the water issues. We have the forest officer.
Yes.
Forest. We have the district agriculture officer. So we want to integrate all their professionalism with the element of environmental conservation. But this time around, we are doing it in a more professional and digital manner.
Wow.
That we are going to have an accountability after every financial year.
Wow.
What have we done to safeguard the environment in all the activities we are doing? I forgot to tell you that government is rolling out what we call micro-scale irrigation.
Wow.
Under micro-scale irrigation, the farmer has an irrigation equipment which provides water year in, year out.
Wow.
So in those areas, we are introducing the component of a woodlot. Now, that woodlot, if it is dry season, at least the micro-scale irrigation should be in a position to ensure that at least it waters that woodlot which you have.
Okay.
50 to 100 trees is what constitutes what we call a woodlot. So you can imagine if you have just only 100 farmers in your area, at least you can be in position to know that those are 100 woodlots in the district.
True.
And what will be the problem now? We shall be in position to achieve a lot. So as I conclude, I want to challenge everybody, all the leaders, the ones I earlier on mentioned, right from the top leadership.
Sure.
Just like our president is always very passionate about our environment. The ministers for environment, the ministers for water, all those agriculture, this time in our budgeting processes, we must ensure that the component of environment takes a center stage in our budgeting process so that we minimize on the limitations, on the challenges which the people who are charged with that responsibility of implementing will minimize those challenges and those bottlenecks. So the budgeting process, even at the lower local level, I've challenged the LC3s. Like I told you last week, I met them.
Yeah.
That in your budgeting processes, ensure that the component of environment is factored in. I've set aside some resources, whether to raise seedlings, whether to facilitate an environment officer, forest officer to move around, monitor, supervise, ensure that everything to do with environment, especially these people who are cutting down trees anyhow, let's have the stringent measures possible, including prosecuting such people who are cutting them, because the law is there. So I want to thank you once again with your team, Faraja TV, and thank everyone who will be watching this show, that the issues of environment, we are even very late with them. We are very late, but it is not too late for us to catch up, because the beauty with environment is that when you pay attention to it, it will also pay attention to you.
Wow.
So thank you very much. May God bless you all.
Kisanja, no sleep, as stated by our president, RDC, Mr. Eseru continued reminding us that to addressing climate effects, every stakeholder must come on board. Every single one of us must play his or her own roles in ensuring that we combat the crisis that we personally have brought in by the bad practices that we've been engaging into. Where are we going? Where are you taking us? But the essential question is, where are we coming from? That was from Mr. Eseru. Thank you all. Keep tuned to Faraja Digital TV for more shows. Thank you.